Hi, I'm Louisa Wilcox. Welcome to my podcast, ADHD and Money. I'm a money mentor for ADHD entrepreneurs with over 15 years' experience in the financial world. Having ADHD myself, I know how hard it can be to not only navigate this crazy entrepreneurial world, but also the challenges ADHD entrepreneurs have with managing money too. I know. You're probably thinking I'm terrible with money. I spend far too much. I'm just feeling out of control. I get told these things all the time. I promise you, you're not alone. But it doesn't need to be this way. This is my area of expertise. I've already helped countless ADHD entrepreneurs take control of their money, and I'm going to be spilling the secrets on how you too can do this. So let's get started, shall we? Welcome back to another episode. I have the wonderful Raine with me today, who is an ADHD performance coach. And I have been reading Kim's book recently, which I highly recommend you go and take a look at. It's called The Square Pegs. And wow, that book was amazing. I have to admit, every time I was getting to a bit of it, I was like, wow, yeah, that's me. And I recommended it to a lot of people. So thank you so much for writing it, and thank you for being here. And please introduce yourself.
Thank you for having me. So yeah, Raine, I am the entrepreneur, ADHD and performance coach, but I also now do education. So I recently launched the ADHD practitioner. We're on our second cohort now, where we work with coaches, therapists, any experts and professionals who are looking to work with ADHD clients. And that's a CPD accredited certification. So it's currently at the time of, I don't know when you're going to put this out, but it's the UK's highest CPD accredited ADHD program at the moment. And we've got big plans for that, because I'm really passionate about having that within the industry, having that regulation and the expertise within the industry. So I've sort of moved on to do that, but I still do my ADHD coaching and work predominantly with entrepreneurs and business owners to better manage their businesses and their ADHD and everything that entails.
Firstly, massive well done, because that's a huge achievement that you've done there. And I do think it's really important, because coaching is a little bit of an unregulated industry at the moment, isn't it? So the fact that you've got that CPD there is brilliant. And I think for us with ADHD in particular, it's going to help us identify those who are quite serious about what they're doing too, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm quite passionate. I think what's happened is coaching has always been this unregulated industry. There is regulation within it, but anybody can be a coach, anyone can call themselves a coach. And now with the ADHD factor, there is a lot of people looking for ADHD coaching, because there's certain things that really help with ADHD. Medication, definitely, for those that want to take it and can take it and it works for them, works really well. But also education, understanding your ADHD, and then coaching, having somebody to work through things with us, to just sort of take those steps to think things through. And so the ADHD industry, in inverted commas, if you like, has become, something that we can all, it's huge, and it's grown because diagnosis has gone, a lot of people are now diagnosing either self or otherwise, because now we know so much more about ADHD. But it has opened up this space of coaches who have ADHD becoming ADHD coaches. And ADHD is, it's a really diverse spectrum, and one person's ADHD isn't another person's ADHD. So actually, especially if you're looking as an ADHDer for a coach, you want someone that is going to really understand your ADHD and not just ADHD through their point. Having said that, I'm not knocking anybody that is doing that, because I also know anybody diagnosed with ADHD has ADHD, and therefore we all hyper-focus and try and find out as much as we can about it, because very often we've been on this journey. I know that was my case as well, of what's wrong with me. And then when you find out, I'm like, okay, I need to find out everything I possibly can about ADHD. And very often the people that come on the ADHD practitioner, when I speak to them, they know loads about ADHD, because but I do feel it's important to have that regulation, particularly for anybody who's looking to work with those ADHD experts, for sure.
Yeah, I do as well. I think it is great to be able to say, yes, I've actually taken the time to properly learn about it. Like you say, and this is a thing of ADHD is we do hyper focus. And I always say I geek out on things when it really interests me. And I think we all do a little bit because we go, wow, we need to learn about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's a great point you've made there. And I do think it's brilliant that you're
But
doing that.
also, I think when you find out about it, that we all then become passionate. Like, I want to help others not to go through this. So I'm
Yeah,
not knocking
totally.
anybody that for their wanting to do that. I think that I'm really glad that there are so many people wanting to do that, because I'm 50. I didn't get diagnosed till I was like 46. So actually, that was a lot of years working with people who didn't understand ADHD. I didn't understand ADHD. So it's nice to think that the world is changing and we're going to be able to get the help and support that we need, for sure.
And it's growing more and more, isn't it? Like you say, it's more accepted now. And not just that, I think we understand ADHD more. And as science gets better and our understanding and knowledge of it gets better, more and more are getting diagnosed, especially women.
Yeah.
See, we're not really diagnosed until really perimenopause and menopausal
Yeah.
stage. So now we are going to see a huge shift especially in the entrepreneurial world, and
Yeah.
even some bigger names out there, some celebrities are now getting diagnosed. So yeah, over the next few years, it's going to boom, isn't it?
100%. It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. As an ADHD business owner, I would love to know what are some things that you have found that have been obstacles for you as in running a business, but also what are your, I don't really like to use the term superpowers, but I'm going to. What are your superpowers within business? I'm trying to
Um,
think of another word for it and I can't really think one.
no. So I think some of the obstacles that I've had are very much the obstacles that I've seen in so many of my clients. Very often, it's that, well, if we look at the superpower side of it, actually, what the strengths are that we have, it's that being able to bounce back, always being able to get up and keep going, always having new ideas, the innovation side of it, the creativity, the tenacity. But that can also be my downfall. And I say with others, I've always got lots of ideas. I'm full of ideas. I'll probably come away from this podcast thinking, oh my gosh, I could do this, I could do that. Da, da. And because we're impulsive, because we're hyperactive, because we have this urgency that around us, that when we have an idea, we think we have to act on it now. Very often, I used to go down lots of different roads. So I would end up with a lot of half-finished projects and forever creating new things, I've got this idea, I'm going to do this group, I'm going to do that. And I would always be creating stuff, particularly, my background. I say that I've been coaching for like over 18 years now. And my background was coaching burnout, high flying women who were struggling with anxiety and confidence. And through there, I would always have all these different ideas. But very often, I can't even remember why I started talking about that now. Louisa, don't worry. That's just the way my brain goes. I'll come back round.
Mine does as well, don't worry.
um, but with that, I'd be like, oh, I could do this now and I could do that now. And there would always be, oh, that's what I was going to say. So actually, I'd be working with clients and suddenly, I'd be, oh, this client needs this or this. And rather than thinking, oh, I'll just find out a little bit about it, before I knew where I was, I want to do a course on it, and I go and spend however much doing a course on it. And then said, and that very much has led me to where I am, but it also led me down a lot of dead ends or, and half finished projects. And that doesn't get you moving forward in your business.
No.
So I've seen that with a lot of, now with my clients, I'm very, very strict with myself now. I do actually have a strategy that's a very simple strategy that I keep my business really, really simple. And I get my clients, everything has to go on one A4 piece of paper, and I can put the whole thing on that, because that's for me, my brain. Now I could go off in all sorts of alleyways and whatnot, but actually that just doesn't make me money. So simplifying my business is something that I've really had to learn to do. And sometimes it can be quite painful to do, because I think, oh my God, that is such a good idea. Did I need to do it before somebody else does it? So certainly that. The other thing that I have spent a long time doing and see clients doing is the comparison element of it.
Oh gosh,
is
yeah, massively.
yeah, and looking around, and very often I think whereby, you know, we very often we have we've been searching for answers. We feel like we never feel like we do enough. So there's always more that we should be doing. And very often, you know, I would go into and I'd get this course or I'd go into this group, and I would be looking around at others who seem to be going leaps and bounds ahead of me, partly because they probably weren't stopping to look around at what everybody else was doing. They were just getting on and doing the work. But I never had enough faith in myself to just put those blinkers on and do the work. And I would very often be looking around, looking for support, validation from others, because I wasn't sure of I was never quite sure of the decisions that I was making, because I had burnt out so many times and I had gone down so many dead ends. And what if this was going to burn me out again? Or what if this is going to take me down another dead end? And then I'd be looking around at other people, comparing myself. So I know that the comparison was a huge thing for a long time. And that would lead to the need to be in certain spaces and certain places, and the FOMO and all the stuff that would then lead to. And now I kind of like, yeah, I blinker all
It
of
is
that away.
it is so important, and this goes on to drowning out the noise, isn't it? Which when you
Yeah,
have ADHD, it's really hard because you
got a
want to do
noise.
everything. You get FOMO, you want to do everything, sign up to everything. And actually myself recently, I've gone through my emails and I think I unsubscribed from about 20 emails today. And the
Yeah,
thing is like, because my inbox every single day, I will be looking at it and there's like 200-300 unread emails.
yeah,
Then you get overwhelmed because you've got all those emails that actually you don't even really need. And then when you go on the online space, it's so noisy, isn't it? So it is taking that moment to step away and go, actually, where is it I want to go? Which direction do I want to be heading in? And what do I need to get that? Because definitely when you have ADHD, it is very tempting to go, okay, I need that course to get me there. I need that thing to get me there. We think it's a shiny syndrome. We think that that's going to solve the problem by buying something else, when
yeah,
actually, if we sat down, worked on ourselves, put it onto paper, it's so important putting it onto paper. I have
yeah,
to do that because I'm visual, and a lot of people are with ADHD, is actually go, right, they're the things I want to achieve. This is how I do it, and just focus on that. And then one of the things we are great at is hyper focusing. So when we can do that, we probably get there a lot faster than some others because we are like full steam ahead.
yeah. I've said to clients before, right, who are the people that you follow? Who are the people right? And that's and I'm like, right, go and unfollow all of them.
Yeah.
Unfollow them all for a month and see what happens in your business. And that's not because they're not amazing people, but very often we have enough knowledge, we have enough resources of actually what we need. What we're doing is spending so much time looking around, seeing what everybody else is doing, and either comparing or coming up with new ideas or thinking we're being left behind. So that means, oh gosh, that. And what happens is it becomes overwhelming. And for our brains, when they get overwhelmed, we get this kind of like amygdala gets hijacked. We get in this sort of like, and then our prefrontal cortex will just shut down. And suddenly we go from complete overwhelm where we don't know whether we're coming or going. And we're very much like a fly in a jam jar sort of thing, trying to get out, going to suddenly crash and
Yeah.
burn out. And suddenly there's nothing there. And actually, you know, it's not that these people aren't amazing, but unfollow those people. And then when you think, oh my gosh, actually, I really want to concentrate on my money, I'm going to go and follow Emma. Or, do you know what? I'm interested in my ADHD. I'm going to go and follow Kim. But when those people actually don't unfollow either of us, actually.
Yeah, not us. Don't
Yeah,
go on
and I've
following
just
us.
called you Emma Louisa, which is awful.
It's fine, I'll let you off. Don't unfollow
Oh
Kim and don't unfollow me, Louisa.
No, don't unfollow Louisa. You can unfollow Emma, whoever she is.
Do you know what? If you hadn't said anything, I would have just thought you were talking about someone else. I would not have worried. You've told me that.
There we go. But you get the point. It's like actually think about who you're following and what they're giving you. And it's not that there aren't people, but actually when you're following the people within your industry, what are you really following them for? And I think it's good to dip in and out. But yeah, if you're using it as a stick to beat yourself up with, then yeah, maybe that's not the thing to do.
Definitely. And I've done that actually this week. So I've gone through my business money and where it's all going. And there's a few things that I've been paying for and part of, and I've got actually at the moment that's not serving me, and I'm getting myself too stuck on feeling like I'm missing out on things and then having to catch up because I'm not part of the live sessions, and I've gone at the moment that's holding me back. So I
Yes.
move away from them temporarily so I can move to the next stage of my business. And it might mean in 6 months I go, actually, now I need to go back into that. So I'll sign back up for, or I'll go and join that person. And I do think that's a really valid point, is it is making sure you are being part of things at the right part of your journey, because we can hold ourselves back as well, can't we, for sure? Yeah.
Absolutely. And also, like you're saying as well, that feeling of, it just exacerbates that feeling of failure. That feeling of, oh, now I'm in this group and I'm not keeping up with the lives and I'm not keeping up with everything I need to be doing. And it's just a little bit more, again, it's just a bit more exacerbating, and it just diminishes your belief and your confidence in yourself a little bit more. So ultimately, have that faith in yourself that you probably do know enough right now for where you are right now to get to the next stage. And then you come back and then you'll go, okay, I'm back in the room. What do I need? What can I take from this? Okay, I'll take that and then leave the rest. But it's hard. It's really hard to do.
It's something you learn as you go along, isn't it? And as you grow as well and become more confident in yourself, it's a journey. It really, and entrepreneurship in general is a journey. The whole thing is, I think personally, it's personal development and business development alongside that. It's really exciting, but it's just being careful, because obviously the trap that we then fall in with that is the overspending trap. And this is then when businesses end up in debt because we're trying to be part of everything because of FOMO, but then we're not bringing in the sales because we're trying to keep on top of everything we don't really need. So that's the dangers, isn't it? And that actually brings me on to my next question. What are some of the things you see entrepreneurs struggle with in a money sense?
So, and the funny thing is, Louisa, I'm probably not the person either that should be speaking about this, because I have been on that roller coaster of, and before I knew I had ADHD, actually, like I've made loads of money, I've got no money, I've got loads of money, I've got no, and then what would happen is, oh, I've got loads of money, I need to spend this money, I'm going to spend it. Oh, I've got no money again. So, that I've been there first. That's, I think, the first thing I want to say. But I think some of the things that it's definitely, I've worked with a lot of people who have really quite successful businesses, but aren't making any money.
Yeah.
And very often that's because they're spending too much money. And that's sometimes spending it on the things that we've just talked about, things that are really there, that are whereby they're trying to get validation, where they're trying to, feel supported and confident in themselves, when really they've got everything that they need within themselves. But it's just that not knowing. The ADHD, I've also seen where I've spent money out of desperation. Like, I just need somebody to, I just need someone to do my social media, and I've paid, huge amounts to people just to get it off my plate, and actually it's not been a good ROI. So I think actually looking at our spending, and in fact I was talking to a client this week and she's like, oh, I have someone that does that for me. I have someone that manages my like my Zero for me. And I was like, so how often do you go in there? And this lady hadn't paid herself for a long time, and she's got a really successful business. And she was like, oh, well, I have someone to go. And I said, the thing is, we have this object permanence, and we have, it may feel like actually a big deal to you that you don't want to go in there, and it's all overwhelming when you go in there, but let's go back to your goals and what you want to achieve. And actually, every time you go in there, you're going to be taking yourself a bit further step towards that goal. And I won't say too much because it was obviously a coaching conversation, but actually it's like, how could we make that exciting or interesting for her? Because if something, for us with ADHD, something isn't interesting, we're not going to do it. So the thought of going in and reconciling, as I used to be, like I do use Zero. So the thought, every time I used to go in there, all I would see was 400 transactions that needed reconciling. I mean, that would just be overwhelm. It was just awful. So now I have an accountant and a bookkeeper, and but actually now I'm like, I go in there and I can see my figures, and I'm like, wow, okay, yeah, it's been a good year, but did I need to spend that? What did I get for that? And I'm so much more aware of my money, and I have so much more respect for my money. in that actually it's not just about, because very often it's like, how much can I earn? How much can I earn? But it's like, actually, how much can I not spend? And don't get me wrong, anyone that knows me, I still like to spend. I'm still not great. This is a work in progress. But very often it's like, oh no, I don't like dealing with that. No, actually, be mindful of it. Where focus goes, energy flows. Is that the saying? And object permanence means that if somebody else, we can be like, oh, it doesn't matter. And then, there's no money for us. And that's not, you are not running a business. You've just got a very expensive hobby that is probably burning you out,
Well, this is exactly why, because I've got a membership, the Financially Fearless, and that's exactly what I do within that. So I hold people accountable, and we have a session a month where we literally sit and we go through our personal spending.
Yeah.
You don't have to share any figures, but it's that
No.
co-working space and having me there as the expert going, okay, so you can talk if you want to. And then once a month, we do what I call the accounts accountability session, where we go through our business finances. Again,
Yeah.
it's a co-working session, but it's time for the entrepreneurs, my clients in there, to actually spend on their business finances in a safe space without the judgment.
Yeah.
And if they have any
Yeah.
questions, they can ask it. Because we do shy away from numbers. And as entrepreneurs, even if you are outsourcing, it's so important you know your numbers. I mean, yes, it's great, like you just said, outsourcing to an accountant, but like your lady who's not looking at it, you have no idea if your business is profitable. And I
No.
can guarantee your accountant or bookkeeper, and I run an accounting firm as well, I do two businesses, probably isn't talking to you about your numbers. And
No.
I actually worked with a client last year, and most of the clients I work with tend to be near the six figures or turning over six figures. And it's so true. Like especially if you come from not having much money, it's exciting when you get money and we spend.
Yes.
But just in that situation, when I worked with her, she had a really successful business, but was in debt and wasn't seeing the money, and she had no idea. She was a limited company, didn't understand about the fact that actually you can't just take money out of it, not the same as a sole trader.
Yeah.
And when we started working together, I went, well, have you spoken to your bookkeeper about whether you even have the profit to be able to take that money out? And she went, oh, I didn't even know you had to do that. And it's a good job I asked that question, because actually there was a few months where she had to stop doing that. And if I hadn't, the business would have made a loss, and you can then have to pay it back to the business. So it's so important that we do understand and look at our numbers, and don't always rely on your bookkeeper and accountant. Because if you don't look at your numbers, you don't understand them, you don't know if you've got a good bookkeeper or an accountant. They're not all
Yeah.
that good.
Also, though, like, it's, the thrill of being a profitable business, that going well, and you think, oh, how often, like, oh God, I made this amount of money in sales, and that's amazing. So, I got a client and it was X amount, like £3,000, and I've got a £3,000 client, brilliant. But actually, if you've got to pay, VAT, your tax, you maybe have to pay someone else, and they're paying on a payment plan and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, I've made £3,000. I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy an X, Y, and Z with that. You're not doing, you're not really looking at what's going on. And the thing with ADHD is, we're impulsive. And
Totally.
one of the things, and the spending, one of the biggest, particularly in women, is spending and shopping. That is how we can get our dopamine, and we can do it in our personal lives and within our business. And when you add that to marketing and what goes on outside, and social media and advertising and being in networks, it can be really quite catastrophic. And I've, like you say, I've worked with people who have businesses that aren't making any money, they're not paying, and then they're in debt for them because they're putting things on credit card because they think what they're going to buy next is going to give them the answer. So definitely spending, being aware of that, and being aware of your behaviors around that with regards to the impulsivity, and just actually changing it so that you're thinking, you know what, I mean, I get clients to change their bank account, so they do stuff like Starling or something. I like Starling, but whatever, something where you can have pots and you can see bits of money growing. And I have like money I haven't spent pot. So if I'm going to spend something, I think, oh, that could go in my pot instead. And actually, for the first time in my life, I have got savings. I've never had savings, right? I've always had, been on the back foot, because I'm like, oh, actually, I get a little dopamine hit now from putting it in my pot. Like, I am 50. It's about time I grew up, and it feels more secure. So definitely that. The other thing is budgeting, having a budget. around actually, what are you going to spend on your education or self-development this year? What are you going to spend on marketing? What are you going to spend on going to, events, etc., rather than just being like, oh, that looks good, that looks good. Have a budget, even if, because with the ADHD is sometimes, and I've got a pretty successful business, and if someone says to me, hey, sit and do your budgeting, I just think, oh. But actually, even just to write the numbers down on a piece of paper that's like, actually, I'm going to spend this, or a percentage, and know your profit margins, because it brings awareness. But it can all, the amount of people that say, I just want financial freedom, I just want to not be worrying about money, or I just want to get out of debt. But actually, they don't really want to look at their debt. Yeah, they don't want to look at their debt. Yeah, because they're like, oh, yeah, but I don't want to look at it because I know it's bad and it makes me feel bad. Well, here's the thing. Actually have a look at it. Sit down with someone like yourself and go, right, I'm going to tackle this.
Yeah.
And now I know.
That shame away, isn't it? Because I call it a conscious spending plan, because I think you need to be consciously aware about where your money's going. But we need to take that shame and guilt away from spending, because it is okay to spend on ourselves. But it's making sure that you're spending when you have the money and not putting yourself in debt. And it's a mindset thing, and it is changing habits. But no matter where you are on your journey, you can change it. You can always change a situation.
Yeah.
And I always say your today is not your tomorrow. And when you take that first step to managing your money and knowing how it's working for you, that's when you can make the changes. And like you say, with ADHD, gosh, I mean, I've done other podcast episodes. I've done one, so I call it the dopamine spending cycle. That's exactly what you were talking about. And I've done one, and I fully admit, I've got an Amazon addiction, and Amazon is the worst one. It even pops up on my watch. Got a Garmin watch because I do exercise. It's good for running and things. Tells me when there's a sale on. So one of my tips I say is I put things in the basket, and I've got a 72-hour rule. I'm not allowed to buy it until 72 hours later. And then I've usually forgotten about it, because I kind of get that hit putting it in the basket, but actually I don't really need it. So I find myself in the post office returning things going, I didn't actually need that. So it avoids that temptation.
I remember when one of my first sort of big income months where I did, and suddenly, and it'd been a long time. So, and next thing I knew, and I'm working and I'm busy and I'm hustling away. And one day I came downstairs and there's just parcels everywhere of stuff. And I was like, I don't even remember ordering. But meanwhile, because I'm focused on the business and at the same time exciting because I'm seeing these sales come in, unbeknown to me, really, I was then going to get in a little hit by like, oh, I'll have this, or Karen Million's, yeah, I'll have a bit of this, and I literally went and I did take the whole lot back, because I knew I don't want any of this stuff. This isn't going to give me what I'm really working my ass off for, which is security, which something as a woman of 50 years old with ADHD, I've never really had financial security. I've earned lots of money, but I've never held on to it. And I've also had times when I haven't earned that much money. Whether I've got it or not, I've never held on to it very well. Until now, I'm much more, and now I understand, and now I'm doing it properly.
And that's where the financial literacy is key, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So where can people find you?
So you can find me at the Entrepreneurs ADHD Coach on Instagram and Facebook. Kim Raine Coaching, Raine with an Raine, with an Raine with an E on the end. Kim Raine Coaching, www.kimrainecoaching.com, and on LinkedIn, I think I'm Kim Raine. Come and find me. We've got a great Facebook group on Facebook.
I'm in that, so it is really great. It's a lovely community.
It really is. ADHD Brains in Business, and yeah, come and find us and come and connect.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I could actually chat for another hour about this conversation, but I think that's also typical of ADHD. I'm an over talker. But thank you so much for joining me, and I really appreciate you being really open with your money, like money and business as well, because I think it's so important that we do have open, honest money conversations. For anyone who listens, and sometimes when we go through life and business, we feel like we're the only ones going through it. So by having these conversations, we remember that we're not alone, but actually you can learn and change a situation at any age and at any time. So thank you.
Yeah, 100%. I remember when I first started, the shame around female entrepreneurs, ADHD, as the shame around money just blew me away because I didn't realize it was such a huge thing. So yeah, it's good that you're doing this podcast and having these conversations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you ever so much for coming on. Thank you.
You're welcome.